굳이 안 해도 되지만 나아가서 하는 거.
그런 비합리적인, 비효율적인 것들을 했을 때 더 감동이 세게 오는 것 같아요. 저는 이 책이 현대판 인간관계론 같다.
If you really give all of yourself to bring other people joy, you're ultimately the one that receives the most joy.
환대는 그런 것 같아요. 꼭 큰 게 아니어도 굳이 할 필요 없는데 그냥 넘어가도 되는 거 아니야? 그런 거를 다 짚고 디테일 하나하나 다 챙기고 살리는 거. 직업에 대해서 얘기하는 부분 중에서 마음에 대한 얘기도 되게 많잖아요. 나 그냥 책 번역했어가 아니라 내 글을 통해서 뭔가 더 많은 사람들한테 환대를 알리는 일을 하는 거야. 뭔가 그 직업에 더 깊은 뜻을 갖는 거. 그런 내용도 되게 와닿았어요.
저는 책 읽으면서 되게 반성을 많이 했어요. 그러니까 뒤로 갈수록 이 책이 이제 고객을 대하는 그 마음을 리더십의 영역까지 확장해서 윌 저자가 자기 팀원들이랑 같이 어떻게 일을 하는지, 그 팀한테 어떻게 대하는지 막 이런 것들이 되게 자세히 나와 있는데 반성하게 되는 거예요. 난 저렇게 못했구나. 저는 이 책이 현대판 인간관계론 같다 이렇게 썼거든요.
저는 이 책을 읽으면서 일상 속에서의 환대를 많이 실천하고 싶다는 생각을 했어요. 그 사람이 했던 얘기를 스쳐 지나가지 않고 기억해두고 해줬을 때 그런 것도 작은 환대라고 생각해요. 굳이 안 해도 되지만 나아가서 하는 거.
그런 비합리적인, 비효율적인 것들을 했을 때 더 감동이 세게 오는 것 같아요.
They may be more creative than you. They may have more money than you. They may just be more talented than you are. The only competitive advantage that exists over the long term that comes through hospitality, through creatively and generously and consistently investing in relationships. So I wrote this book, obviously, from the lens of a restaurateur. That's what I've done my entire career. But what I found was that at my restaurant before I sold it, what made us number one was we made the choice to be as unreasonable in pursuit of how we made people feel as every other restaurant was solely in pursuit of the product they were selling. And I strongly believe that if everyone, regardless of what you do for a living, makes that same choice, you can become the best in your business as well.
서비스 그 이상의 환대를 이제 바라보는 개념이 정말 강렬했어요. 어떻게 그런 방식으로 환대에 대해서 생각을 하기 시작했는지가 궁금합니다.
Instant gratification that comes from making someone happy. I don't believe there is anything more energizing than the feeling I have when I see the look on someone else's face when they receive a gift I'm responsible for giving them. I like to make games out of everything. I actually think it's one of my superpowers as a leader because I don't care how much you like your job. It's always going to be more fun to play than it will be to work. People have asked me, how did I challenge my team to get better and better and better with each passing year? I always say I didn't. I just took the work and broke it up into as many little games as I could. Games we all liked playing. And well, anyone who's ever played a game you like playing, you know, the more you play, the better you get. Yeah, the book is about service and leadership, but leadership is service. It's just to a different group of people. I am there to serve the customers that are coming into the restaurant, but first and foremost, I'm there to serve the people who work for me. And honestly, if I can take care of the people that work for me, we will all be collectively better suited to serve the customers. Often it's the same ideas that impact both. If you're willing to be vulnerable, if you're willing to say, I'm sorry, if you're willing to be wrong, even if you're not, if you're willing to put their needs above your own, if you're willing to do all of these things, that makes you a better host, but it also makes you a better leader.
우리는 왜 계속해서 이 unreasonable hospitality를 실천해야 되는지 그 이유가 궁금합니다.
One of my favorites of his quotes is, with every decision you have to make in life, ask yourself what right looks like and do that. Sometimes you put yourself out there and you show hospitality to someone else and they don't receive it in the way you want them to receive it, or even worse, they insult you or they push you away, and that's hard. At the end of the day, your energy needs to impact other people. You can't let their energy impact you. You can't let a few bad people threaten the integrity with which you want to live your life. But the other thing I'd say is this. Okay, sometimes a guest would come into the restaurant and they would just be acting like a jerk. Now, It's a very human instinct to, when someone's acting like a jerk, to decide that they no longer deserve our greatest form of hospitality. Giving them the charitable assumption, though, maybe they're acting like a jerk because on their way to the restaurant tonight, they learned that their father had died or their wife had just filed for divorce. Maybe the person acting like a jerk is actually the one that needs my love more than anyone else in the room, not less. Sometimes they just end up being a jerk. But I'd always rather err on the side of assuming the best in people than err on the side of assuming the worst.
아버지 얘기를 잠깐 해주셨는데 책에서도 아버지 얘기가 자주 나와요. 문진 이야기가 되게 인상이 남는데 거기에 실패하지 않는다는 것을 알았다면 무엇을 시도하겠는가 라고 이제 쓰여 있었죠. 이 인용문에서 영감을 얻은 95대5 법칙을 적용한 사례를 공유해 주실 수 있으실지.
That's a big question. Really hope to inspire more people to answer honestly. And whatever the most honest answer is, to just try to do that. Saying that far too many people are scared to answer, to say their biggest goals out loud for fear that if they do and don't achieve them, they'll let themselves and those around them down. But that if you don't have the confidence and the conviction to dream your biggest dreams out loud, it is very unlikely you'll ever achieve them. My biggest dreams was to be number one in the world. That is unbelievably audacious, but saying it out loud ultimately brought it to life. I wrote New York Times bestseller on a cocktail napkin. That felt impossible. That you think about a goal that feels far too impossible to achieve and start saying that you're going to achieve it. And even if you don't, you will get a whole lot closer just for having tried. The 95-5 rule is about money. Because listen, hospitality, it takes money to do well. The 95-5 rule was my way. What that meant was we would manage our money like maniacs 95% of the time so that we could earn the right to spend the last 5% of our money foolishly. And I'm putting foolishly in air quotes because I don't believe that money is foolish at all. In fact, it's when you spend that last 5% on unreasonable hospitality that you give people the kind of stories that they're going to want to turn around and share over and over and over again. And it becomes one of the greatest investments you can make in your business. How did we do that? Well, the types of paper towels we were using, or the uniforms, or how we were managing overtime, or managing breakage and china and glassware, all of this stuff, so that we could hire dream weavers and buy people sleds and get them teddy bears and all this stuff that through the lens of other business people would seem insane, but through me felt like the most prudent business choices of all.
저자분이 11 메디슨 파크 레스토랑을 이제 1위 레스토랑으로 만들기 위해서 이제 계획을 할 때가 고작 26살 때였어요. 사실 26살 어리고 경험이 없다는 게 어떻게 보면은 되게 약점으로 보일 수 있는 그런 거잖아요. 그 약점을 나의 강점으로 만드실 수 있었는지, 특히나 우리 지금 20대, 30대들이 많이 무기력에 빠져 있거든요, 한국. 그래서 그분들에게 이제 도전 정신을 불러일으켜 주실 얘기를 해줄 수 있는지.
I think you have the greatest superpower of all for two reasons. One, your inexperience is a strength. That's not to say that you should be overly confident and challenging everything and dismissing. When I started at 11 Madison Park, I was so young and had not spent much time in fine dining. And so I was able to look at everything with a fresh set of eyes. And in doing so, identify the things that no longer deserved to exist. If you ever ask someone why something is being done a certain way, and the only answer you receive is that's how it's always been done, that's an idea that perhaps should be challenged. And in my 20s, I came at it with such a beginner's mindset that I had the ability to really reinvent fine dining in a way that I would not have been able to do later in my career once I'd been burdened with too much experience. The other thing is that in your 20s, you have nothing to lose. You're operating from a place of fear around things that you can lose. You need to reset your perspective, because the greatest strength you have right now is being able to go all in on something that might fail and then do it again and do it again. Because once you turn 40 and you have kids and a family, you can't do that anymore. But in your 20s, you can. And there's a lot of things that we did back then that other people thought were crazy, but I didn't care. I had nothing to lose. And if I lost everything, I could always start over again. It's honestly when you have nothing to lose that you end up having the most to gain. And so I believe youth and inexperience, when handled maturely, when you're still trying to learn and not just be irreverent, can be one of the greatest superpowers of all.
저자분이 이렇게 환대를 해야지 하고 만들었던 그런 다양한 폼들이 있잖아요. 우리들도 어떻게 그런 걸 만들 수 있는지 그런 팁을 좀 듣고 싶은데요.
Everyone has an experience that they're serving, and it's different, right? You walk into a restaurant, you sit down, we take your order, we serve you a meal, you leave. You walk in to buy a car, they greet you, they show you different cars, you end up buying one, you drive the car off the lot. You walk into a grocery store, you put a bunch of groceries in a cart, you go through the cashier, you pay, and you leave, right? When I start to lay it out like this, they all start to sound rather similar. You're just purchasing a different thing. And if you look at the experience and you break it down into all the little elements of it, and then try to make as many of those elements just a little bit more awesome, a little bit more connective, a little bit more gracious and hospitable, the cumulative impact can be profound. What I've noticed is that far too many companies don't really study the experience well enough to understand all of its components. And until you've isolated every touch point in an experience, you have an inability to elevate them. You can welcome people into every business, regardless of what you do for a living. And the power of a beautiful, gracious, genuine welcome, in my view, is transformational. I think hospitality is the most selfish pleasure. It feels unbelievably good to make other people feel good. Sometimes when I am unhappy, the best way to turn my spirits around, the best way to put me in a good mood, is to invest in others. But when I spend a lot of time, let's say for my wife or my dad or my kid, and I spend a lot of time trying to get them a present that I think they're gonna love, when they open that present, and I know that they really love it, that for me is a better gift than any gift someone else could give. I think that hospitality is the most addictive thing in the world. And if you really give all of yourself to bring other people joy, you're ultimately the one that receives the most joy.